Kia ora, everyone. Thank you for bearing with us while we got our guest speaker on the line, Sinakhone Keodara. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our second webinar this morning. Obviously, this is an important topic in our theme of diversity matters, online safety done together. And certainly it's a bit harrowing, some of the statistics that we've seen here at NetSafe. Year on year, we're getting a rise in reports around rainbow community participants saying that they're victims of someone online trying to bully or humiliate them. And 68% of participants in our survey post-COVID lockdown said that they'd received unwanted digital communications during and after the nationwide lockdown, compared to only 38% of heterosexual participants. So it's my pleasure to welcome Sinakhone Keodara here, who is going to talk to us today about a campaign that he started to talk about how apps could make themselves kinder. And so I'm going to hand it over to him, and then we, of course, can have questions at the end, and I will hand it over to the moderators. So kia ora koutou, thank you everyone for coming, and I look forward to listening to the presentation.
Yes, my name is Sinakhone Keodara. I'm, the founder of BodiGuard. In 2018, I was actually browsing, Grindr, the dating app, on a Saturday night, and I basically came across this profile of a gay white man, an elderly gay white man. And on his profile, all he said was, not interested in Asians. And it really pissed me off, excuse my French, but it really kind of offended me. And I was like, wow, I'm not even attracted to this guy. I wouldn't even, touch him with the 10-foot pole. For him to have the audacity to say he's not interested in Asians, and that's all that he said, I thought it was unacceptable, because I am a paying customer. And I felt that, I shouldn't have to be subjected to that kind of abuse, that kind of harassment, basically. And I was offended. I'm like, why am I paying for my own oppression? And then 5 minutes later, a friend of mine called me from New York. He was like, hey, Nakhon, crying. He's like, have you see what's going on in New York? I'm like, what do you mean? On Grindr? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, there's all these profiles of guys saying they don't find Asian people attractive or Asian guys attractive, or just, something very racist against Asian people. And he and I talked, and, I decided I'm going to sue Grindr. And then I called a friend of mine who happens to be an attorney. And we decided, okay, we're going to sue Grindr. So what I did was I went on Twitter and I tweeted, a tweet that was heard around the world. It was a tweet saying something to the effect of like, you know what, I'm pissed off at Grindr. I'm sick of it. I can't believe they're allowing this racial discrimination against Asian people. I'm seeking co-plaintiffs because I'm going to sue them in a class action lawsuit for, aiding and abetting sexual, racism against Asian Americans, Asian gay men. And so within minutes, of me sending out this tweet, it caught fire, and like I began getting calls from like reporters and from all over the world, and people started writing, articles about me and then contacting me, and so it became this wildfire all over the world, in South America, in Europe, in China, Japan, Asia, all of it. And so I it was the tweet that was heard around the world. And because of that, Grindr came out in response to that. They created a hashtag kinder campaign, which is basically a PSA saying that, I guess that's their way of like PR or damage control. But I appreciated, the thought. Because of that, they featured Asian people, Asian gay men, and they talk about being kinder to each other, being nicer online to each other, right? But I got attacked a lot. I mean, gay white men, even people from the gay Asian community. So I became like a target, but I didn't stop. And me and my friend, his name is Hussein Turk, we wrote an op-ed that was published on The Advocate. I don't know if you knew The Advocate. It's a big gay news, political news magazine and an online magazine and in-print magazine. So that garnered about 10,000 shares. So basically, my threat to sue became the talk of the town, became the lightning rod, not just for a conversation starter for the Asian American community, in the gay community, but at the same time, I have these straight guys, like straight Asian guys, reaching out to me on social media saying, "Hey, yo, thank you, bro. I really appreciate what you're doing." He's like, "We get it too. Like, straight Asian men get it. I appreciate what you're doing because even on, these straight like Tinder, Bumble, all those like straight dating or hookup app where people feel so emboldened to tell to our face that, they don't find the whole Asian, race attractive. Like, have you seen, 4.9 something billion of us? So can you really say that not one Asian person is attractive? But that's just common decency, would dictate that you wouldn't, some things should not be said. Like, I don't care if you don't want to have sex with me. I don't, the guy who offended me, I don't want to have sex with him. I mean, like, how dare he? Like, oh, I wasn't even attracted to him. And it was kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, see, all my life I've dealt with it from the gay white men community, like growing up in Atlanta, where I'm sitting next to somebody 2 feet from them at a gay bookstore and coffee shop called Outright Bookstore in Atlanta, Georgia. And these gay white men be like, "I don't find Asian guys attractive." I'm like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "I'm sitting right here. I'm human. How dare you?" So when this happened, I took, I used the platform. I took this opportunity to do what I didn't have, done for me as I was coming up as a gay man coming out. And it's heartbreaking because, like, we come out and we were excited to join our community, right? And then for us to experience, sexual racism or just blatant racism from gay white men is really disgusting. And it's heartbreaking because we get it from our family too. They don't accept us. They tell us we're going to hell. They tell us that, they don't like us because we're gay. They think it's a sin or whatever. They see us as being disgusting. And then you come out to your people and this is how you treat us. So I was like, I'm going to sue a Grindr. I'm done. And, when we wrote that op-ed, I still cry. When I go back and read it, every now and again, I still cry because I wrote that for the 12-year-old kid that was me, that was the gay kid, and I did it because I want these young, gay Asian men coming out to see that you don't have to take that. Somebody stood up, I stood up, and that one person can make a difference. So what ended up happening was, even though they both Grindr, Tinder, all these other, even the heterosexual dating apps also changed the user profiles, banning those sexist, racist language. And specifically for Grindr, they went so far as to say, if you use those words, we're gonna ban you permanently. I was satisfied with that. I'm like, you know what? I didn't do this for money. Some people thought that I was trying to get some money. I'm like, no, I'm standing up because what was done was not okay. It is not okay that just because it is socially acceptable to step on Asian people or to discriminate against Asian people, I'm not going to lay down and take it. So because of what I did, all these dating apps, changed the policies. And now I'm still on Grindr and I'm a paying customer again. And I don't see that. I don't see that bullshit. I don't see people saying, oh, no blacks, no Asians, or no Hispanics, or no rice, no chocolate, no beans. I don't see that anymore. Because people know you will get banned. And so because of that, I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that me as a gay man who stood up and said, you know what, this is not okay. This has got to change. And the message I want people to know is like, one person can make a difference. I can look back at my life now. If I die tomorrow, I'm like, you know what? I'm proud of that. I did that. I changed, the dating game for gay Asian men. The thing was, it wasn't just me that I impacted. It's transgender women, Latino gay men, Black gay men, everybody. You can't say anything sexist, transphobic, fatphobic, or ageist, or anything, because I put that was my part of my demand, right? During this whole entire time, and even though Grindr has never officially reached out to me, because at the time we were opponents. They were kind of like interviewing other people, and basically it's their way of communicating to me that okay, they're gonna make some changes. And when they did that, I dropped the lawsuit because mainly because of the it's called DCM in America. There's a section 230 of the Digital Communications Act. Because of that, there's a law that protects tech companies and platforms in not being responsible for something that their users do or say on their platform. Because of that, we don't have a causes of action, and I decided to drop the lawsuit. But by then, I feel like I accomplished what I wanted to do, because I brought I raised awareness, and I made this into a community issue and a worldwide issue. Like you guys are just talking to me about it right now, 4 years later. And because of that, some positive things will, some changes were made, and because and I'm happy about it. And yeah, so that's basically all my story so far. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer some.
Thank you for sharing that story. And yeah, we'll take some questions. I'll start with one. Are you still using the app?
I am. Yes, I am. I mean, I wasn't for a while. Like while I was, well, no, actually, I had to, because in order for me to have, a cause of action, I have to be the paying customer. I have to, you know what I mean? I have to be the party that's being injured. And so, under advisement from my attorney, kept my Grindr, but I deleted, after I dropped the lawsuit. But I've since rejoined it, but I don't experience that anymore now.
We do have a question from Karen. Have you talked to Grindr since dropping the lawsuit?
No, I have not. I mean, like I said, they never really reached out to me, or because they, it's just smart of them, because we're opposing parties, right? I'm suing them, so they just don't deal with me. But they send out, they have a PR campaign, interview people, and I keep up with that. It's kind of like we communicate through the media to each other, but no, but they haven't officially contacted me or anything like that. But I have since moved on with my life, But from what I understand, there's another guy that's suing them. I think his name is Eric versus Grindr, something having to do with harassment. It used to be that when you put Grindr lawsuit, my name would come up. All the articles about me would come up. Now, when you do that, it's him. He's a gay white man. I don't know much about his lawsuit, but something to do with harassment.
Alexandria is asking, how bad was the pushback from the freedom of speech, it's my choice lot?
Oh my God, it's yeah, a lot. I mean, and the stupidest thing is the hardest part for me was like, there are these gay Asian men that were like, oh, this is freedom of speech. I'm like, no, it's not. Hate speech is not, it's not a guaranteed speech, right? And just because freedom of speech, it doesn't talk about a private, company having a platform, right? Freedom of speech is talking about your speech against the government. That's what's guaranteed in the, I don't know what amendment it is. Is it the First Amendment or the Second? I think it was the second. No, hold on. I think it was the First Amendment. So, but yeah, most of them would try to say that, oh, well, you know, this is, oh yeah, one of their argument was that, or the fact that, you know, I don't have to be, I can't get my dick hard if you're Asian. I'm like, what? You know, you can't make me get aroused. I'm like, who's making you having sex with me? Who's saying that? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we're asking to be treated, you know, with dignity, with human being, like a human being. Like, I don't care what you're into. Talk about what you're into. Talk about you being into somebody who's 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. Just don't talk about what you're not into. You don't have to like dehumanize me and people who look like me, right? And the most heartbreaking part is we're all gay. Like, I fought for the gay rights movement. I mean, I'm a you know, gay rights activist. You know, I fought in 4 different marriage equality campaigns. You know, one in LA, Prop 8. I was one of the field organizers, and it's kind of like, yeah, for them to throw that in my face is not okay. And but it's those people who really came at me, talking about, you know, I'm trying to censor people. I'm not. I just don't want to be harassed. I just don't want to be degraded and dehumanized on a platform that I'm paying for. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Imagine if somebody said this about white people. It would not be, and you know, if nobody would have taken it. You know, I mean, that would not have been an issue. They would have shut that down right away. But because people have this perception that Asians are going to take the abuse, I'm not the one. I'm not.
We have a comment
Yes.
and a question from Tam.
But
Thank you for sharing, Sinakhone. My wife is Asian, so I understand your frustration and anger. Although my wife has not had any racist experiences online, she has in person. And then Tam's question, there is an option to block people, right?
yes, but I mean, but that's the thing though. Like, why do I have to be even subjected to it? Like, I'm like, you know, white people don't have to be subjected to it. That's not good enough. Like, if I'm swiping, I shouldn't have to see that. Talk about what you're into. You know what I mean? And not what, I mean, not what you're against, right? So you can't block people. You can, or here's an idea. Why don't you take it upon yourself and not post that crap on a public forum? This is a playground for all of us. I have as much right as a paying customer to not walk into a playground where it's littered with racism against Asian people. It wasn't just Asians, it's Asians against Blacks, against Latino, against trans women, against anybody that, you know, that's not perfect or whatever, or that's not gay white men. No, the onus should not be on me, it should be on you to behave like a decent human being.
And a follow-up question from Tam, is Grindr proactive in protecting their members once they are aware of any racial or violent harassments?
When you say proactive, I mean, like, well, yeah, they were proactive by, you know, by amending their, you know, and posting their revising and posting their the new user profile. That's them being proactive. And at the same time, you know, they ask us as users to report these people who still violate their policies, you know. And if they, you know, I still violate, I still report people. And so, and you know, I know people who have been banned because of that. And so yeah, so it's both the community and them, yes. But they are, I mean, I guess they have a moderation panel, but it's up to the users to report them, right? And I think they also, I don't know for sure, I don't know if they have installed any kind of like algorithm or any kind of, you know, I had asked them to like take away the filtering. For example, like it used to be, at least in America, gay men can filter out, you know, they can filter, they can do a filter for like just white people, just Asian people. You know, I pushed for that to be changed. They didn't do it. It wasn't until last year during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter, you know, chaos that Grindr changed its mind and decided to take away the filtering, you know, when you cannot do a race filter anymore because, but only in America. I know that in certain countries they still have that, but like, you know, me and a friend of mine, his name is Javon Hudson. He was a student at the time at Princeton University. They came out, Princeton University reached out to me, and they came out with a study that basically talks about that particular feature, right? Where when you allow people to physically, select and filter out an entire race, you are reinforcing racist behavior in your mind. And so that was a whole thing, right? And but Grindr did not listen. They didn't even acknowledge. But eventually they fixed it. Yeah.
Mm. And one last question, in the interest of time, we need to wrap it up here. One last question from Rebecca. At the very beginning, did you consider taking action against the individual with the racist comment in the first instance, as opposed to Grindr, like under the hate speech? Are there any avenues to do that in the US?
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, that was me taking action against him by by reporting him. I did report him. But this really, I don't know what he looks like. I mean, but to me, the onus is on Grindr for allowing it to happen. And this is, I've dealt with this all my life. I've seen it for so long, but I've just had it, But to me, Grindr is responsible. Just like I have an app now too. My app is called BodiGuard, and where you can hire bodyguards, security guards, a car service, like something. If anything happens on my app, I'm responsible. My company is responsible. Because I have to buy insurance to insure my bodyguards at the car service. No, it's up, I mean, and there's no way for me to know who this guy is, right? All I see is his face, his picture. So yeah, but by me doing that, that was me raising awareness, and they, they responded in kind. So.
And we'll wrap it up with this one last comment from Alice. Alice says, FYI, I'm talking on Grindr in a bit. I can answer these questions about the platform specifically and our policies. So that's just a comment. And I believe we're out of time. Thank you so much, Sinakhone, for your presentation. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a good day, guys.